And Aditi Tandon, Associate Editor at the Tribune, joins us now on DD India News Hour. Welcome, Aditi ji. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has made some very significant declarations from the Red Fort in his Independence Day speech today. For instance, he announced the launch of Prime Minister Viksit Bharat Rozgar Yojana, under which the youths will get their first job in the private sector to get 15,000 rupees from the government. Your take on this very welcome scheme?
See, as you know, the employment generation scheme will be a game changer because already 1 lakh crore have been announced by Prime Minister. And the plan really is that all newly employed youth will be given, support, a financial support of around 15,000 per month. So see, this is a larger initiative in order to reward enterprise and in order to also, boost the already existing demographic potential in our country. See, we are blessed to have a very young population at a time when populations of major countries that are huge economies today, for instance, if you take the case of the US, take the case of Japan and China, they are all a rapidly aging population. As against that, India is still a young country, although we also face a demographic challenge for which also, if you see, the Prime Minister has announced a mission today. An expert group that will look at the ongoing demographic transition and find ways of addressing that challenge much ahead of any crisis that we might face in the future because of an aging population, which is a reality. But this scheme, like you rightly said, can be a game changer because it will support enterprise and it will support the financial independence of young people who come into the workforce.
Yeah. In his speech, Prime Minister Modi also announced that first Made in India semiconductor chip will be launched in the market by the end of this year. Tell us the full significance of this extremely important announcement.
See, the semiconductor sector of India has been really weak if you look at the initial years of independence, and a reference was made by the Prime Minister also. The semiconductors mission has been established already and work is ongoing in that mission. Only 2-3 days ago, the cabinet also announced setting up of, semiconductor plants in major states of the country, including in Punjab and Odisha. So the thing is that we have been lagging behind in the semiconductor race for about 6 decades now. If I recall, the Prime Minister made a mention and he used the phrase saying that the semiconductor making efforts were killed at birth, whereas other countries kept on prospering. And naturally, we have to do a lot of catching up right now. So now the announcement of the government is that we are going to go into this particular sector in mission mode because a lot of digital security, a lot of national security spin-offs stem from the semiconductor availability. And right now we depend a lot on foreign countries for that. And what we have seen in the announcement by the Prime Minister today is largely the extension of his existing and his persistent vision of an Atmanirbhar Bharat, where he's saying that semiconductor capabilities have to be created at home. And he's also announced from the ramparts of Red Fort today that by the end of 2025, we will have the first Made in India chip.
Okay. Prime Minister Modi also promised a big Diwali gift in the form of next generation GST reforms and said that the taxes paid by the people would reduce drastically, benefiting small industries and MSMEs. So what can we expect here? And what are its full implications for, among others, inflation and the common man?
See, GST has really transformed the economic landscape of the country. And if you look at the year by year GST revenue collections, you will realize what I'm talking about. The figures are going up and up. A single unified market across India is cutting red tape, is cutting tax burden, compliance burden in various ways. So we have seen that the first generation GST reforms that were unleashed by the government have held us in very good stead. But now we have to move to another level. And once we have ensured that the market is streamlined, tax collection is going up, tax evasion is reducing. So what do you do as a next step? The next logical step is to pass on the benefits of the first phase of GST reforms to the taxpayers. As you know, the Prime Minister and also Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman have repeatedly, encouraged honest taxpayers of the country in a bid to expand India's tax base, which continues to be still low, but we are slowly getting there. So, the idea of the next generation reforms, which the Prime Minister today unveiled, is to pass on the benefits of the first generation GST reforms in the form of higher tax collections to the consumers like you and me. So, he's actually promising reduction of taxes on essential goods and services. He's also promising a huge relief to the micro, small, and medium enterprises, to local vendors and consumers. I think this is also aligned with Prime Minister's vision of boosting the local economy because he continues to emphasize vocal for local initiatives. So, how do you do that? You do that by enhancing the capacity, financial capacity of local units, domestic industry, local vendors. Because the problem with the Indian products is not that we are not good at making products, the problem is quality. And year on year, we've seen in the budget announcements, in the announcements of Prime Minister post-budget, he's been emphasizing that we really need to look at our quality standards. So to do all that, you have to give that flexibility, financial flexibility in the hands of common people so that they buy more, in the hands of local industry so that they produce more quality goods. That's what we expect from the next gen GST reforms, which PM said will come on Diwali.
Okay, also in his speech, Prime Minister Modi underlined that farmers, livestock keepers and fishermen are the government's top priority and that the government will stand like a wall against any policy that threatens their interests. Was it another assertion on a very important occasion to prioritize national interest?
Yes, you see, Prime Minister made this statement, I think, about 6, 7 days ago, where he made it very clear that no matter what the personal cost to him, he is not going to compromise the interests of Indian farmers, the interests of Indian livestock rearers, and fish farmers. Because these are the three sectors where we all know that right now US President Donald Trump is very eager that India should open up its markets. But you see, opening up the local domestic market with respect to the farming products or dairy products would really hit the domestic industry very hard. And today's reference by Prime Minister in the Red Fort speech is that the national interest, which largely centers around our agriculture and dairy dominated economy, is not going to be compromised with, no matter what the cost. And as you know, India is already working on alternatives. The Prime Minister is going to travel to Russia, meet President Vladimir Putin to look at alternative avenues. So it's not as though India is sitting hand on hand. Very active free trade agreement negotiations are, even as we speak, underway with several other countries. We've achieved more than we wanted in the historic FTA that has been signed with the UK. Imagine India exercising its economic leverage with a country that had once colonized and enslaved us. So that's not just a statement in financial independence, that's a statement that India as a national power has arrived on the world stage.
On that note, let's wind up the discussion. Thank you very much, Aditi Tandon ji, for being with us on DD India News Hour.